of God's Spirit to ever hit planet Earth just before Jesus comes to tell these stories. Tommy, why did they want you to tell these stories?
Because they believed they were anointed and it was going to set forth the revival. When I tell these stories now, Sid, things start happening. People start getting healed. And people start getting ministries themselves, supernaturally, especially when I pray a prayer of impartation on them.
Well, I'm going to have Tommy do that in a little while. But Tommy, tell me about William Seymour, who started the revival.
Seymour is the son of a slave. He wasn't that awful educated, but listen, they said that when the anointing come on him, he started preaching, man, he'd say words so everybody could understand it, but they were so intelligent. Had an anointing on him all the time, and he was obedient. I don't know that if a pastor could get away with this today, but he had sat on a pew and put a box on his head.
What kind of box?
A wooden box.
Why'd he do that?
Well, he said God told him to. And sometimes he'd sit there for 10 minutes, and they said he was sat there before for over an hour.
While all the people were there, he said, how would you like to have a wooden box over your head?
And flames would start shooting down and go through the flames that were coming up.
What were these flames? What was the point of this?
Well, I know, I had a Jewish rabbi explain to me that there are flaming angels mingling through each other in the Bible. This is known. He said those angels, the flames that were shooting down were angels bringing miracles to Azusa Street, and the ones going up were going back to get more miracles. And that's during that time of the flames is when the great miracles would happen.
Now, they had wonderful, creative miracles. It's going to be hard for you to believe. Tell me about the man that had an artificial arm.
He had even his shoulder blade here ripped out at a job, and back then they didn't have the benefits they had now. He had an artificial arm hanging on it, but it was starting to really give him some trouble. And Seymour said, well, y'all need to take the artificial arm off. And he looked at the audience and said, y'all want to have some fun like we did about a year ago when the man's leg grew out? He said, well, we're going to. And he laid his hands on his shoulder. Brother Garcia looked down and said, Brother Tommy, I could look down into that hole in his shoulder and see the bone. He said he started praying for it, and said all of a sudden the bone started growing out in about 4 inches. The flesh started growing around it. And he said, I sat there, it took only seconds, but to him, it was slow motion. And he watched it as it just grew out. And he says that he watched as the fingernails appeared all of a sudden.
You know, if that would happen for me, I'd put a wooden box on my head. Would you do it? I know you would. We'll be right back. I can't wait for him to pray for this impartation for you. Yes. The same thing about a great revival that was coming. What was the prophecy?
That in about 100 years, there would be a revival like Azusa Street, only greater, that would return, and greater miracles, and it wouldn't be in one place with one person, it would be all over the world, said. Regular people, regular church members, even children, older people, even people in nursing homes would start having healing ministries there. And it would last until the second coming of the Lord.
How far?
And then you could hear bones popping, and his chin started coming back up. And with just in a few minutes, he was normal. And Lucille said he was really kind of attractive.
Well, speaking of attractive, even a movie star that had a horrible accident,
yes.
Robert Montgomery. Tell me, what happened to him as a child? Most people don't know this.
He had fallen, and his head had hit on concrete, and it had busted his head. They said you could see skull, and you could even see some brain matter coming out. Well, Mama didn't run him to the hospital. She ran down to Azusa Street, took him in there, and they started praying for the kid. And things started going back in, and it went together. And when he grew up, he was one of Hollywood's golden boys, Robert Montgomery.
Listen to this. Many of these saints had like specialties, just like in the natural. A medical doctor might be a specialist for heart, a specialist for skin. Well, those that have gifts of the Spirit have different specialties.
That's true.
Tell me about the woman that had a specialty for teeth.
That's Lucille. Now Lucille was only 4'10", but she would tell me, she says, Tommy, I even played games with it. She says she would get people with no teeth. She wouldn't pray for all the teeth to come back in. She prayed for one at a time. She wanted to put her finger down on the tooth, push down, pray for God to grow it back, and have the tooth push her finger up. It should go around the mouth, bottom and top. It takes some time, but she had fun doing it.
There were young people that would be just playing in the glory. Explain that.
Well, that was Ralph Riggs and C.W. Ward. Now, not C.M. Ward, C.W.
Okay.
That when that glory would get so thick, Ralph told me sometimes you couldn't see more than 10 foot from you. He said him and Ralph would play hide and go seek until their mothers found out, caught them, and then put a stop to it.
Tell me about Goldie, who had a specialty for growths.
Goldie, that's the one that led me to the Lord at Venice and brought me to Pisgah. She even would take a little dustpan and put it in a tank
and receive this amazing impartation from all of these people that had these miracle ministries. I'm going to ask them to pray for you when we come back.
We'll be right back to It's Supernatural. If you love watching our It's Supernatural TV program, you can now watch hundreds of archive programs online.
Supernatural of God like never before.
That's sidroth.org/ISN.
And he'd go up and examine them, and he'd realize that they're just speaking in tongues.
Let those disasters happen. Speaking of David Garcia, tell me about when 11 years old.
Ralph Riggs. Ralph said one of his biggest miracles, and an old drunk had come in off the street, stunk of alcohol. A very giant of a man, about 6'4", maybe 2. £250. Ralph didn't like it, but then all of a sudden he got closer and he realized the man was blind.